Good afternoon, everybody. This is Joyce, and you're live with BoQ today. I'm going to give everybody just a second to log in before I get started because I don't want anybody to miss anything. But while we're waiting, I have Cindy and Phyllis in the studio today, and they are working on some daffodils from Susan. So say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
So if you hear something in the background, it's just the peanut gallery back there. So they're going to be working while I'm live with you today. So I hope everybody is having a great day. I'm going to see if I can log in here and start seeing some comments. Hi, Ann. I just saw you log in. There we go. Okay, now I can see some comments coming up. There we go. Okay, so today I am bringing you a brand new company out of Colorado. Hi, Terry. Hi, Delise. How are you guys today? And they are a new company that I have just found thanks to Tilda. She's my girl here that helps me out a lot. I couldn't do it without her. And she was researching and found this new company from Colorado Craft Company. And they have some beautiful stamps. They've only been in business a year and a half. Hi, Joseph. Hi, Christian. Hi, Sandy. So I just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about this, but I thought that these stamps were so beautiful for coloring that I needed to do a video about coloring. So I was going to show you guys some of the techniques that I have used to make some really pretty cards today using the Colorado Stamp Company stamps that came out. So I just wanted to go ahead and show you 3 of the collections that we have here at BoQ right now. So this one is called Lovely Legs, and the premise behind this type of stamp is that everything that you see is from the legs down, so you never see the face. And so for instance, like she's holding some balloons and you can't see her face, but I thought she just turned out so darling. And I did her with alcohol markers, so I'm going to show you guys how I did that. And we do have these. I thought that the price point was really good on these stamps. They're $15.99 and $19.99. So I thought that was a really good price for some of these stamps. And we do have them in the studio. So we will be making them available to you guys as well. And so this one is an anniversary. This is also the Lovely Legs collection. And this has a man and a woman sitting on a bench, and they're feeding the pigeons. And I just loved what it said. It said, "I wish I could turn back the clock. I'd find you sooner and love you longer. Happy anniversary." So I just thought that was a really beautiful sentiment on that stamp. And then this is another one from the Lovely Legs collection. This is a sympathy stamp, and I loved this sentiment. "Death leaves a heartache that no one can heal. Love leaves a memory no one can steal." So I really thought that was a beautiful sentiment for somebody who's struggling with the loss of somebody that they love. This one right here is another one I thought was really cool. This guy is running for his hat. Apparently it fell off, and you know, he's running for it. He's having a bad day. But I loved this quote by Winston Churchill: "If you're going through hell, keep going." So I thought that was really a neat stamp. Denise says, "Happy to be joining. I got the email notice from CCC." Yes, I have just had the best experience dealing with them. They're very customer friendly. I really, really enjoyed. Hi, Tilda. So you guys can all thank Tilda. She's watching now. She's the reason that we have Colorado Craft Company. So thanks a lot, Tilda. So this is one of their collections called Savvy Sentiments. And so you see that it has a big bold word that says congrats. This one says happy, and this one says you. So everything that you could possibly congratulate somebody for is on this stamp. I even love this one right here. It says congrats on becoming grandparents. Isn't that neat? Like, have you ever seen that before? I hadn't. So everything that you could possibly congratulate somebody on. This is everything happy. And this is everything you. So birthday, take care of you, I'm praying for you, you are my forever. So this is a really, really neat collection too. I think it's very versatile. And then this one right here is one of my faves. This is the Big and Bold collection. So this one has this big, beautiful rose that you could use for a 6x6. So I'm going to be showing you that today. And then there's this one that is a perfume bottle. And I really thought this one was neat because, you know, like Chanel number 5 has this little NO sign right there. Well, you could actually put the numbers. So if this is like your 45th anniversary, you could put number 45 and personalize it. So I thought that was kind of neat. Hi, Diane. Thanks for joining in. Have I missed anybody? Hi, Adrienne. Hey, Tilda. Okay. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So one of the first ones that I did was the reason that I purchased these stamps for our studio, because we lost one of our dear friends, Darlene, and this card was just, I thought, beautiful. I loved this sentiment. So I stamped her, and I thought, you know, she needs to be colored with watercolor. So I thought, well, I don't really want it to be like bold watercolor. So I grabbed my watercolor pencils, and it doesn't matter what company you use. I found that it really doesn't make a difference. So I grabbed my watercolor pencils. Let me grab my other bin here. I'll set this aside. Okay. So watercolor pencils are really cool if you've never used these before. The big rose. Oh, I know, Denise. Wait till you see some of the samples that I made with this. So this is one that I did with regular watercolors. So I just used it as a regular pencil and just colored it in. So that's the neat thing about watercolor pencils, any brand that you use, is that you can actually use them as regular colored pencils, or you can add water to them and it becomes watercolorish. So I thought what I would do is just kind of show you on his jacket right here what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna grab this brown, and this is a watercolor pencil. The neat thing about watercolor, because I told you this class was going to be all about coloring. So the neat thing about watercolor is that if you just highlight the areas that, you know, kind of like add some color there, you don't have to color in the whole thing. Because once you take your, and I just kind of shade it like that. Once you take your water brush, which I have right here. By the way, these are the Aquaflow pens from Tonic. We do have them here in the studio. They have a fine tip and a medium tip. I love these. The water is always there. You don't have to squeeze it. As long as your little chamber here is full, you're good. So back to the watercolor. So all you have to do is just activate that color, and then you have a beautiful image that looks watercolor. So you can color it, you know, first, and then go back and add your water, or go back and add your water here. Isn't that neat? I love watercolor pencils. I think that that's just, it gives you the ability to put the color where you want it. So I thought I would show you the watercolor pencil option. So I love these stamps because I feel like that they really give me a lot of options for coloring. So that's watercolors. So the other thing I wanted to show you, do you guys need something? Okay. So the other option that I wanted to show you was the actual colored pencils. If you guys have never seen this, this is a watercolor, colored pencil blender. There's also one by Prismacolor. It's called a Prismacolor Premier, and it's PC1077, and it's actually a blender pencil. So I'm going to show you both of these today. So I thought what I would do is just kind of, this is a regular watercolor, a regular colored pencil. And so I'm just going to fill in his britches here. And then I'm going to show you with the blender how you can go back and get those annoying lines from a colored pencil out of there, and so it looks a little bit more professional and not so second grade. No offense to the second graders. You guys do great work. So this is a colored pencil blender, and it actually comes with two tips, has a small tip and a large tip. And it's really neat because it's got like a Gamsol or a waxy substance in there, and it allows you to blend your pencil strokes so that you don't have like a bunch of crazy lines from where you've been coloring. See that? So that is a colorless blender. Now they do have the Prismacolor. This is colors more like a regular pencil. And so you can just go ahead and put in your color that you want to blend. And I'm just doing gray back here because I wanted something in the background. And then you take your colored pencil and you just go, your colorless blender, and you go over it, and it helps to reduce some of the streaks, but there's a lot of work involved in this. You really have to press hard. It's really difficult for me anyway to continue going and blending. So I prefer the colorless blender because there is like a liquidy substance that's in here, like almost like Gamsol or something, and it just really, really helps to blend a little bit better, I think. But just be careful you wash your tip off, because otherwise you get color in there. Hi Sherry, thank you for joining us today. So I'm going to scoop these colored pencils out of here and show you the next coloring technique that I wanted to do. So the next one that we're going to look at, so that's him chasing his hat, and that's going to have the sentiment that says, if you're going through hell, keep going. All right, so the next one that I'm going to do is our little heart girl here. Now there are, with St. Patrick's Day coming up, they do have one that's just like this, except she's holding balloons, and then the one from I lost my train of thought. The St. Patrick's Day, she's holding clover balloons, which I thought was really cool. So this one was obviously Happy Valentine's, but I like that they gave you happy birthday to the man I love. Every day is like heaven when I'm with you. So it could be, you know, kind of a anything type of card. So I chose these three markers, 375, 450, and 477. And these are the tonic alcohol markers. So if you, hi Joan, so if you have been looking to invest in some alcohol markers, these are not bad price point. They come in packs of 3 for like $5.99, and they are not refillable, sadly, and they are disposable. So I think for that price point, it's pretty good. I'm sorry about the heavy machinery noise if y'all hear that in the background. I think they're digging a hole in my neighbor's backyard or something. So anyway, so I love this skin tone marker. This is 477, and I think this is probably the most perfect skin tone I've ever used. So anyway, so I thought that I would go ahead and just show you how I color in these. And I'll just do a little bit so I don't have to bore you guys with the details. Y'all could sit and probably watch me color all day long, but I don't want you to do that because I want to get to some of the other ones. So the alcohol markers from Tonic have a bullet tip and a fine tip. They've not come out with a brush tip yet, but hopefully they will. So I just took my marker and I went around my outline just like that, and I just kept shading it in just like that. And then I went back over my outline right there to make it a little bit darker. And then I took my white gel pen, which is nowhere to be found at the moment, and I just went in and made like a little balloon, you know, like if the light was hitting it. So that's how I ended up coloring her with the alcohol markers from Tonic. So I really liked these because I felt like it gave me a very good selection of colors, because I usually like to go around my image like this to kind of just give it some definition and draw your eye directly to the image rather than, you know, just being stark white. And I kind of like that. I mean, these colors seem really, really, you know, nice for me. I mean, that's pretty, you know, that's like what I use now. I wish they had a brush tip, then they would be as good as Copic, but they don't have a brush tip. So we'll just have to deal with it, right? Okay, so let me get this one out of the way. This next one I'm going to show you is the perfume bottle. Okay, so this is the perfume bottle. I thought, how beautiful is that if you have like peonies or something of that nature on there. I just thought that that was so pretty. And they give you this option here of stamping here in the middle. So you can put any of these sentiments in there, and I thought that was kind of a neat idea for them to do. And I love that happy birthday. That is such a perfect script. I really like those. So this one I did with the Tonic Aquaflows. So these come in a pack of 3. And they have 3 colors usually, and you can use your regular watercolor water brushes with them. So I just stamped this out on watercolor paper. I know, isn't it a gorgeous stamp? So I stamped it on watercolor paper, but you could do any kind of mixed media paper. Anything that'll tolerate water pretty well is usable for these stamps, because remember, it's just all about, there's the thank you, Cindy. These are the Aquaflow pens. So these come in a pack of 3, and I just happened to got this new color in. These are $13.99 for 3 of them. So I have a whole bunch of them, and you're going to see me use these today, so I'm going to show you how they work. But I really like the barrel on it because they hold a lot of fluid. So I'm going to show you how to use those today, and that's the perfume bottle stamp, and I just embossed it on the background with an embossing folder, and I just think that turned out gorgeous. Wouldn't that be perfect for like a Mother's Day card, or somebody who's struggling with something, or maybe they're ill? Hi Anita, I haven't talked to you in forever. How you doing? Thank you for joining us today. So then the last one that I'm going to show you involves probably 4 or 5 different techniques with the same one, because I'm just absolutely in love with the rose. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of those that I did. So let me get set up here real quick. Okay. So I just did probably 4 or 5 samples in different techniques, because this rose one I absolutely have fallen in love with. I mean, there are so many different things that you can do with this one. So this one was just a plain old chalk, just my regular Stampin' Pastels that I used, and this one's done in chalks. This one was done with the watercolor brushes, and I'm going to show you guys today. I used the soft rose and the cameo pink, so I'm going to show you how to do that. And then I just spritzed it with some Nouveau spray for the background. Isn't that beautiful? And then this one was done with Ink on 3 watercolor. And so I did that with the Ink on 3, and I really liked it because the inks blend very well together. So you can see how I got that peach on the yellow. So if you haven't experienced the Ink on 3 Atelier inks, you've got to try those, because they are amazing watercolor. And I did this with actually the pad re-inker. And then this one was probably my favorite sample of all. This one was done with my Pan Pastels. So this is the one that I want to show you guys today. So there's one of these and one of the watercolors that I'm going to show you. So let me grab my stuff. So I have a Stamparatus tool from Stampin' Up, and if you don't have a Stampin' Up demonstrator and you're interested in this tool, let me know, please, because we are also Stampin' Up here. So I put the rose on this plate, and the plate goes on here like this, and so it makes it easier to stamp the tool. Grab my watercolor card here. And so just like with the other stamp tools, you put it on your your platform, just like that. Put your magnet down, and I am using the Nouveau embossing clear. They have a hybrid ink and they have an embossing ink, so I'm going to use both of those today. So you just go and you ink it like regular, like you would any other stamp. I like the fact that I can put my, if I don't get a good shot the first time, that I can put it back down in the same exact spot. So it was kind of okay this time, but I think I need a little bit more ink. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp both of these, because I want to show you how to do the chalk one, and then I'll show you how I did the watercolor. And then we'll be done for today. But I just fell so in love with this. I thought there's so many backgrounds you could do. There you go. Now we're getting a better image. How come it is that if you put your phone on Do Not Disturb, people are able to call in still? Does anybody know why? I don't. I thought putting your phone on Do Not Disturb means Do Not Disturb. Why are they allowed to call? Hi, Pam. How are you? Okay, now I've got a beautiful image. All right, so we're going to set that one aside, and I'm going to show you in just a minute. But the one that I really am interested in showing you is the chalk with the clear embossing ink. So let me just wipe this down and make sure we're all nice and clean. I just got a baby wipe right here just to get this ink off, because we don't want our background to have any black ink on it when we stamp our clear ink, because all I want is the clear. We're not going to actually add any embossing powder to this. I'm going to show you how to use the chalks. Let me just wipe these off. If you guys have never seen this done before, it is absolutely beautiful. So let's go ahead and, so I'm just going to take the clear ink. I'm not worrying about an embossing buddy or, you know, anything of that nature. I am just going to put my clear ink on, make sure my paper's centered where I want it. Okay. So I'm just going to take the Nuvo Clear Mark embossing. You could certainly use Versamark if that's what you have, or any kind of glycerin or anything that you have in an ink pad that's clear and that will hold embossing powder. It certainly will work with this technique. And then you're going to stamp it. I just love how beautiful this stamp is. It's big and bold, and that's what it's called, big and bold, because they want you to, and I feel like I need just a little bit more ink on this, because you want the chalk to have something to stick to. And the good thing about using a clear embossing ink like this is that when you're doing your chalks, because this stays for such a long time, stays wet for such a long time, it gives you plenty of time to work with your, this is not, I think because it was wet when I started inking it, it's not wanting to. Let's just do it one more time, and then I think we'll be good. So because it does stay wet for so long, it allows you plenty of time to work. There we go. Now you guys can kind of see that imprint right now because it had a little bit of black ink on it, but don't fear, it's okay. All right, so let me get my pan pastels out. You certainly could use any kind of regular chalks that you have. I happen to have had these two sets. So the one that I made right here, so this one was made with the regular chalks from Stampin' Up. So, you know, you certainly could use that. I'm gonna do this one right here today because I love the way the pan pastels go on. And so let me grab those. Okay, so as I mentioned, this will stay wet for quite a while, so I'm not worried about hurrying or, you know, having to get it before it dries, because it will stay for a while. And what I use are these 12, I use these eyeshadow applicators because they're disposable, number one. Number two, I can, you know, use them over and over again, and it gives me a fine tip so that I can pat my colors in. And then I'm just going to use some of the pan pastels that I've accumulated. These are all actually sparkly, so that's why this card appears to have some shimmer, because the pan pastels have some mica in it, so you're able to have a little bit of glitter as well as your flowers. So all I do, and I won't bore you with the whole thing, but I'll show you different areas. So if you guys can see this, I know you can see this outline, but the artist wanted to show that there's shadows right here, so they made it a little bit darker in these areas. So that's what I'm gonna start with. I'm gonna take my darker color, whichever color I'm gonna do, and I think I'm gonna try yellow and pink today, because I haven't done the yellow one. And so I'm gonna take, and I'm just gonna take my applicator, and I'm just gonna pat in that yellow in that area where I feel like the artist wanted to really show some of the shadows. And I'm just literally patting it in there. I'm not rubbing it or, anything like that. I'm just patting it in. And then I'm going to take my other applicator and I'm going to pick up some of that pink chalk and I'm going to actually go in as well and just go over it. And you can see that that pink chalk is sticking to the Versamark or the embossing ink that we have on there. And I just think that that is absolutely beautiful. And I'm not rubbing. That's important to tell you because I feel like if you did, you might smear it. So I'm just patting it in just like that. Hi Verna, how are you? You said, I'm having a hard time with my comments today, so let me read. Yes, I love the pan pastels too. I just think that they are superior. They're very, you want to say creamy chalks, but they're not really creamy because they're not wet. But they're so compressed and so fun to work with that you can smear them with your fingers. See, I could just rub with my finger. Or, they're just so versatile. And I know that Susan does use them with her flowers and speaks very highly of them. So I just got started with my collection because I had been using them with Susan's work. So anyway, so that's what we're going to do. And then I'm going to take a brush that I have, or even, it's funny because all of my stuff has disappeared today. So I'm just going to take one of my brushes, my life-changing brushes, and I'm just going to lightly rub in that chalk and blend that together. So after you've pat it down, it's going to stick, so you don't have to worry about smearing your chalk or your lines at that point because it's already blending in. It's already stuck to the lines there, and you can kind of see that coming together. Hopefully, let me see, pull it up to the camera and see if you guys can get that. There we go. You see that? Isn't that gorgeous? Yes, it does look a lot like watercolor. Now, what I do with these, especially because these have a round applicator end and this has a pointed end, is I will actually go in and take my darker green of the two that I have, and I will go in because I want to highlight my stems and my vein on my leaves. So I'm going to work on the leaf for just a minute. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to really highlight that, and then I'm going to take the other side because this is a little darker than what I want for these pastel colors, and I'm just going to lightly rub some of that chalk off. Then I'm going to go in with my bright green shade and I'm going to do that same thing, except this time I'm going for color, and I'm going to tap that color in, and then that will help tone down some of that dark. And then just like before, I'm going to take one of my brushes and I'm going to brush off the excess. Okay? Now I'm not worried at all about whether or not I'm smearing some around the edges because I'm going to show you a little trick to get rid of that as well. So I'm going to go in and just put my leaf in so you guys can see one of them completed. And I'm just tapping this chalk in. I'm not really worried because I know that wherever that embossing ink is where it's going to stay. So I can put it in like that, and now I've got an outline of a leaf. Isn't that gorgeous? I think that's just absolutely stunning. Okay, so, and you can see on this one where I put in the dark green first, and it really made a difference between this one and this one. So this one I just put the bright green shade, all one color, and this one I use the two-tone. So when you use the second tone, it really adds some dimension and depth to your leaf. So I just wanted you guys to see that so you could see the difference. Now, the other thing that I'm going to share is, let me move this out of the way. Okay, so some of you say I don't like to use chalks because when I use chalks, they get everywhere, or by the time that somebody gets it, it rubs off, or if I try to mail it. So if you were like a professional artist, you might use some workable fixative or something like that to spray on there. But we all try to use what we have around the house, And in all reality, workable fixative and permanent fixative is nothing more than what's in a can of cheap hairspray. So if you lightly spray your surface when you're done with the cheapest hairspray you can find, then your chalk will not rub off in the mailing or after you touch it. So that's my tip for how to use what you already have in your house. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. So when I told you that I'm not worried about going out of the lines, I'm not, because I'm using a kneaded eraser, and this is not really an eraser, but it's like artist putty, and you just move it around in your hands until it becomes pliable, and then I just shape it into like a tip where I can hold it, and you just pat it down and it removes all of the excess lines and chalk and everything that you don't want. And then when it gets dirty like that, you just roll it in and you get another one. We will have these in the shop, so if you've never bought a kneaded eraser before, and you feel like it might be something that you need in your crafting area, then you just let me know and we'll get you one out as soon as we can. So you see, I'm just cleaning up that line right there, and I can do this until my whole thing is done. And then if you look on this card, I did do a background in blue, so I thought that I would show you real quick how I did that with my brush before we move on to the watercolor. So I just took one of the Softies brushes that comes with it, and I decided that that would be good for my corners, and I used a little bit of a mix here. I wanted to show you. So I took a little bit of the matte blue and I tapped it here, and then I took a little bit of the shimmery blue, which is just a shade darker, and I mixed it together here on my tonic matte, and then I can go in here right around my flower and just put in some of that blue. Okay, like that. And then I just took my life-changing brush that was clean, and I'm gonna smear that in like that, and then I get this beautiful blue sky all around my rose, and that's how I filled that in with my chalks. See? Isn't that beautiful? And I just love that rose. I mean, it all starts with the image, and if the image is beautiful, I don't see how you can go wrong. All right, so on this one, this is the one we're going to use the watercolor brushes. So I took my tonic brushes. Let me move my chalks out of the way so they don't get wet, because that would be a tragedy. Okay. So again, these brushes are refillable. They come in a medium and a fine tip. And I'm going to concentrate on one area at a time. So like I'm going to start with my leaf, and I'm going to moisten. This is 140 pound watercolor paper, and I am using the Tonic brand, but as long as it's cold pressed, you could probably use any watercolor paper that you want, and just make sure that your ink is, if you use the Tonic Hybrid, then you know it's going to be okay with your watercolor, but if you don't, I can't, just make sure that it's one of those kinds that you can use with your watercolors. Now these pens are really, really cool. If you've not seen these, let me grab a piece of paper. They do have a brush tip on them, and they paint with the watercolor already in it. This one I haven't used. Okay, so it paints with the watercolor already in it. Isn't that neat? The pigment is already there. You don't have to worry about, and it does work with water. It's activated with water. So you could just paint like this, and because we moistened that paper first, it's going to kind of spread out like watercolor. And I just love this technique and how it turned out, and I'm just going right around here because this is going to give me an outline. And because I moistened my paper only in this area that I want it to be, it's not going to bleed over into my rose. And then I can just follow through with my water pen, and it gives me that watercolor look. Isn't that neat? Denise said I wouldn't have thought of using the chalks. Well, Denise, I'm trying really hard these days to use what I've had in my studio for the longest time, and trying to repurpose stuff, because let's face it, we buy these new things and we think, oh gosh, this is so great. But then we, you know, kind of stack it and store it. And the next thing you know, you've got so much of it, you don't know what to do with it. So I am working really hard this year to try to use some of the stuff I already have in my studio. And I just happen to have the chalks. And I thought, well, I remember doing a technique where we put, you know, the stamp and then use the embossing ink and use chalks on it. And I thought, well, let's try it with this big beautiful rose and see how it goes. And as you can see, it turned out really, really well. So I've now done 2 watercolor leaves. And when that's dry a little bit, I'll probably go back in with my marker and you know, right here along the edge, and then I will put that in. Now with the watercolor pens, the water ones, the Aquaflow water ones, you can actually just wipe off the color and then go for your next thing here. So I wanted to do one of these petals to kind of show you how I did the petal so you can achieve that dark, and let me get it out so you can see the sample, and how you can achieve this dark line right here with one watercolor pen. So all of this was done with one color. Hi Annabelle, how are you? Hope everything's going well today. So I wet the paper first because I want my ink to spread out. And I'm gonna go right down here where the artist thought that it should be darker, and I'm gonna fill in that first. So I'm just taking my watercolor brush and I'm just kind of tapping that in there, and you can see that the water is helping me a lot by spreading my color around. And that's gonna be important when I'm trying to achieve my dark and light. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just color the whole thing in one light tone. Okay, and because I want this part to be a little bit lighter than I want this part, I'm actually going to go in and I'm going to add more color, and I'm just going to tap it in like that. And believe it or not, when it dries, that's actually going to be a darker tone, and you can kind of see already how it's just see, can you guys see that? You can already see that this is much darker than this lighter area right there, and that's how you're gonna achieve. Hi Juania, how are you? I haven't talked to you forever, girl. Hope you're doing good. So this is going to be a little bit darker than the rest of it. So I'm going to do one more petal like that just so I can show you. I'm taking my medium point watercolor pen and I'm wetting down the area first because I want that water to help me do all the work. I don't want to have to work really hard to blend. And so if you wet that first, the paper and the water will help you do that blending. I'm going to take this right here and just fill that in. Remember, we're going to paint the whole thing with one shade first, and that water is going to help us a lot to blend that in. So one shade down, and then I'm going to go in and just tap in another layer of color right there. And because that paper is still wet, it's going to drag that color and make it look darker. How about that, y'all? And then I can even go back in after this is a little bit dry, and I can tap in a little bit of a darker tone if I wanted to. Maybe this is supposed to be darker. But I love these pens because it makes it so easy to watercolor. And I don't know about y'all, but I have the hardest time watercoloring because I feel like I'm not good at it. So I think that these really help because the pigment is there. You don't have to worry about whether or not it's too wet, you know. So anyway, so that is our thing for today, our live. Again, I wanted to show you guys how to, just to recap, we did the Aquaflow pens, we did chalks, we did pan pastels. Here's the watercolor sample. I want to make sure that's not wet still. Here is our alcohol markers. Here is our watercolor pencils. We have our sample of our watercolor. Here is our chalks that are completely finished. Now these are the shimmery pan pastels. Here's our ink on 3 watercolor. And here's our chalks sample. So if you guys are interested in any of these products that I had today, please private message me. Remember, you get 10% off if you purchase after one of my lives. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video today. And if you need anything, give me a holler. If not, you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Bye.
Bye.